So the incident occurred when I was in preschool. Now I know that may seem young to some, but I do have a very, very good memory, which is, a blessing and a curse because you remember things that you don't want to remember, like this particular story. So yes, at the time I was very young. I didn't really understand conceptually that I could bend or break rules. I thought I had to follow the rules to a T because I was afraid of punishment. And I didn't even know what the punishment would actually be. I just didn't want to get punished for breaking a rule. This is the preface for the story. In most places, a preschool has a main teacher and a teacher's aide. So, two adults in charge of whatever amount of children are in the classroom. As you can imagine, the teacher didn't trust children to go to the bathroom on their own. So, what would happen is a couple times a day, the entire class would go to the restroom at once. You would just wait in a line out the door, go do your business, and wait back at the end of the line until everyone's done, and then go back into the classroom. But if it was an emergency, you would have to ask the teacher's aide, interrupt whatever she's doing, and she would take you to the restroom. Well, on this fateful day, a lot of people were having emergencies, just more than usual. I lived in South Texas at the time, so I imagined the Mexican cuisine maybe had something to do with it. But I don't think the teacher thought this. She probably thought since one kid asked to go to the restroom, another kid got curious and also wanted to go. So she implemented a rule where only one kid can go to the restroom at a time, so she doesn't have to pause her lessons or her teachings or whatever every 5 minutes. So lo and behold, the teacher's aide was probably demoted from teacher's aide to bathroom escort. No, that's not a good description. That sounds like you walk into the bathroom and there's a hooker with a cigarette just going, "Hey, honey, what'll it be?" But it just seemed like the teacher's aide was there to take kids to and from the restroom. So around the time arts and crafts was ending, I was putting away my Play-Doh or whatever I was using at the time, modeling clay, and I sort of felt my stomach rumble and that gassy sort of sensation. So, of course, I asked the teacher's aide if I could go to the restroom. And she said, "No. I got 4 other kids to deal with, or 5 other kids to deal with before you can go. You have to wait your turn. Because remember, these are emergencies." And you know what? Maybe I could hold it for 4 or 5 people. That's what I thought. So I tried to keep my mind off it, and the teacher had these oblong shaped tables where she would sit a lot of kids so that she could read them a story. And it was my turn to be read to. It was me and a group of kids. We were all sitting in this oblong shaped table. Teacher was in the middle of it, reading us a storybook. A couple pages into the story, however, I started feeling a little bit of pain in my stomach from not going to the restroom, and that started to worry me, and I started to, get that cold sweat, get a little antsy, because at that moment, I didn't know if I would make it or not, if I could make it down that queue of kids that the teacher's aide had to take to the restroom. But a couple more pages of Dr. Seuss, and suddenly the sensation went away. No more pain in my stomach, just like a faint sensation of gassiness, and that's when it dawned on me, oh, maybe I just had bad gas and, had to fart. But I'm not an animal. I'm not just gonna let one rip because I feel like I have to fart, No, here's what I did. I was just like, I'm a big boy now. I can hold this in. I can absolutely wait until I'm able to go to the restroom. But of course, the gassy sensation got a little bit worse and worse the more pages of Dr. Seuss the teacher would read, and that's when I decided, what if I just, squeak a little bit of gas out, just a little bit at a time, and maybe over the course of a minute, all of it's gone, nobody smells anything, I don't get embarrassed, and I make it in time to go to the restroom. I'm going to mention here that I have always been a skinny person, but as a child, I was particularly skinny to the point where any of the clothes that my parents bought me inevitably fit very, very baggy. So I had baggy underwear, baggy shorts, the whole lot. Everything fit baggy. So after not being able to take that gas sensation anymore, I decided to put my plan into action. I pretended like I had to fidget in my seat and get more comfortable and, raise my ass off the seat for just a second so that my ass isn't plastered against the seat, making it much more likely that if I fart, it will be like a very loud sound. I wanted it to just be silent a little bit at a time and nobody would notice. That's what I wanted. But what actually happened is I shit myself. But it wasn't an adult Guinness Book of World Records type shit. It was a little child what I call Cocoa Puff shits, where you don't have that sphincter control, so you just let out one Cocoa Puff at a time, and it's kind of gross looking, and I'm sorry if I described it graphically, but it makes so much sense when I'm telling the story, because that Cocoa Puff fell out of my shorts onto the fucking floor. And I'm not gonna lie, I was scared shitless, both figuratively and literally. But I was also kind of resourceful, so what I did was I saw the little piece of shit on the floor, and I did what any rational preschooler would do. Kick it across the floor under the table to the opposite side of the table. I should have known at that moment that I was destined to play soccer or something, because I kicked it perfectly under this little girl's chair. A couple more pages and about 30 seconds into the midst of my panic, it's finally my turn to go to the restroom. And that little girl who was sitting across from me, she's a couple people up next in line. So I went to the restroom, I took a glorious shit, tried to clean my pants the best I could, and also tried not to take too much time so it was suspicious. And then I go back, sit back at my seat, and listen to the captivating Dr. Seuss tale that I wasn't paying attention to because I was more concerned with the shit on the floor. But finally it happened. Like, the teacher paused mid-syllable. This one, I think, is called a yink. He likes to wink. He likes to... What's that smell? So she sort of scanned around for a couple seconds and just, thought somebody passed gas, went back to reading, but the smell persisted. He likes to wink and drink pink ink. So, and this is the moment that the teacher glanced down at the little girl next to her and saw a piece of shit on the floor. And you would think, being a pre-K teacher, that, they're taught in training that you're probably going to inevitably see shit on the floor, or that because she's a pre-K teacher, this sort of thing happens all the time. No, it was panic. At this point, the teacher's aide was returning from yet another bathroom escort mission, and the teacher, without question, sent the little girl ahead of the queue to go to the bathroom immediately to do her business because she had an emergency. Meanwhile, the teacher, visibly flustered, has to do that walk of shame to grab a wet wipe or a paper towel or a tissue or something to pick the piece of shit up off the floor and throw it away. And the reason I'm sort of cracking myself up is because she was sort of like scolding / lecturing the class as she did it, about how it was unfortunate that Marisol had an accident. She's never like this. And that's when I knew I was off the hook and that she fully took the blame. And since the teacher decided to lecture the class about this incident, everybody was aware that this girl shit her pants. And so when she returned to the oblong table to sit and listen to the rest of the story, of course people are giggling, and I realized I ruined that girl's life. She probably was at like her high school graduation party, and one of her classmates pipes up, "Hey Marisol, remember that time you shit yourself in pre-K?" And the worst part about this entire story is that she was in pre-K and probably doesn't have the best memory, so she's convinced that she actually shit herself in pre-K when she probably didn't. And the reason that I have such a clear memory of it is because I totally had to question my moral code and keep my mouth shut and really say a lie for the first time when I realized that just breaking the rule and running to the restroom and taking whatever punishment I would have gotten, if any, was probably the best course of action. But I actually blame the teacher and teacher's aide in this instance, because why couldn't the teacher's aide just take multiple kids to the bathroom at the same time? Or why couldn't the teacher see that the demand was so high that a bathroom break was necessary? I don't get it. In the grand scheme of things though, shitting yourself in pre-K isn't that big of a deal, but when I was that age, it was life-threatening. I thought my life was over if I got caught with that. Like, my parents would whip me, I would get sent to the corner in pre-K, lose privileges, something like that. I thought my life would be over. But looking back on it as an adult, I can see that lying by omission is still lying, and the right thing to do at this point would be to look the girl up, send her a message, an email, a letter, something that along the lines of saying, "Hey, I had you in my pre-K class, and I remember this story where I shit myself, and you got blamed for it." Or maybe that's a can of worms that I don't want to get into. Like, it was such a traumatizing experience that now she's a 23-year-old woman who wears Depends, even though she's never had an accident since then. Who knows? Well, what I do know is that this video is sponsored by Depends. Use code COCOPUFF at checkout. I can't do this shit. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next story time. Don't roast me too hard in the comments. Okay, do so.